me. It is now, I believe it's December 3rd. It is Wednesday. My dudes. And two important things today. I had yet another interview. We'll see how this one turns out. And also, I finished reading The Emerald City of Oz, which is the sixth book. Almost halfway done. We're getting there. I think this is actually the longest Oz book. And this is where it is very much like getting into seasons of a very long show, and then you're a couple of seasons and you're going, what is happening here? None of this has to be happening. A couple interesting things with the book in terms of the story itself. It makes a very interesting decision to, and presumably this will also just continue on, that Dorothy, Aunt Em, and Uncle Henry are now going to permanently live in Oz and live in fairy country, which is interesting, right? Because one of the big things that I would argue has always been about, in terms of people's view of the Wizard of Oz, is that partially because of the way the movie is presented, it is an imagination of the psyche, but also it is, it is interesting, fascinating, because it is a place that only she gets access to, versus now, which they are permanently moving there, because of the economic situation of where they're poor, they can't pay off their house, they can't pay off their farm, and so they're going to permanently move to Oz because there is no money and they have to worry about it. Fascinating stuff, right? And then you have one of the consistent things in discussion that occurs, right, is about people living and expecting certain things because of how they were raised and how they've always lived, right? And so you have the whole thing with Uncle Henry and Em, in which they've always been poor farmers, and that's the way that they expect to live. They are then given the lavish treatment of everything, and the decision is made that they have to live this way. They have to live this very lavish lifestyle because they're related to Dorothy. Dorothy's a princess in Oz, right? But then we come across characters again and again and again, like the Shaggy Man, like Jack Pumpkinhead, like the Scarecrow, in which these characters are allowed to live as they want, however they want, no matter their relationship with everyone, right? Which is fascinating, right? You have this whole thing that has occurred in which Ozma feels that they are effectively a parent to Jack Pumpkinhead, and Jack Pumpkinhead effectively feels and has discussed that Ozma is his mother, but then it gets to be allowed to go and just be a pumpkin farmer, which is, one of these weird, fascinating things of like, so why is this character allowed to do and live how they would like, versus the human characters. Yeah. The book has a lot of non sequiturs, which, right, you like, that is to be expected within these books, but this book does a great deal of where it's just like, oh yeah, Dorothy's gonna go visit 3 different kingdoms right now, and No one else gets to visit them. And that's, you know, three chapters. The Gnome King from forever ago has come back and is going to try to take over Oz. He's going to try and he has convinced other races to come and join the gnomes in this fight. Here's 3 other races that you have not interacted with at all. You're actually reading a story from one of his generals for half of the book, which is another kind of weird decision to get made here. But then they're all of no consequence. And now you live now in a world where at the very end, Oz is basically made invisible from everyone else. And so no one else can ever enter or exit Oz. Which is just like, it's a lot of build up to nothing, right? Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Really the big takeaway and the point is, like, you have to let people live how they're going to live, right? That's kind of the one main big one. There's another one of these things where, like, the thing gets beat on the head at the end of one of the chapters, and then, like, and I just forget about it because it's not interesting, right? We condemn a whole bunch of people to a fate worse than death, which is fascinating. All of a sudden we get to the waters of oblivion, which if you drink it, you forget everything, and not just like key memories. It is, you revert to being a child, like a baby within the body of a human kind of ordeal. And so, like, it's just kind of a weird, like, oh yeah, we're going to condemn 4 different races of people to this and then just kind of leave it at that. I now remember looking through this, there's another 2 towns in here that are like, seem to be very much L. Frank Baum, just kind of, yeah, here's people I don't like. One of them is Rigmarole Town, which is anyone who says anything in long-winded ways that could be succinct, which is effectively just me, right? And you know, it's the whole, it's the one of the very, very direct lessons that Dorothy gets is, I need to be succinct and I need to be careful with the words I choose, right? Which is just like, you go through all of this, you build a whole town and a whole chapter dedicated to this one very specific thing, just so you can say this, L. Frank Baum. And the same thing goes with, there's another weird town, I remember what, it's the next town that they go to, which is just all the warriors of the world and all the people that are focused on the ifs of everything. That's another one that is just very much a L. Frank Baum complaining about the world in a way that he gets to express. But yeah. I don't know, I think that's it for Almost Studio Oz. We're on this pace of, right, we are playing a game of Chutes and Ladders or playing a game of Monopoly, of where the ending, we understand how this game is going to be played, and it's just a matter of getting to the end, right? So yeah, and that was the Emerald City of Oz by L. Frank Baum.